we're going to start it off right off the bat with our assistant principal, Kristen Sautner, who's brought some of her wonderful students from our Acting with Integrity Club, and they're going to discuss what they have been doing throughout the last few years, and in particular this year. And I thank you all for coming to be here today.
Welcome everybody, thanks so much for coming. These are 4 of our lovely students from the Acting with Integrity Committee. Our committee is comprised of students, faculty members, and potentially parents if anyone after this presentation is interested in joining. Just to give you a background of some of our members, this is Robbie Waxman, Emily Tillinger, Leah Weinfeld, and Olivia Frischman. And you'll see the names of some of our other students that are very active on the committee as well. So just to give you some background on our mission is to create a school culture at Byram Hills High School where students act with integrity. We take pride in creating a community that's built on honesty, responsibility, trustworthiness, respect, and fairness. We believe that our committee supports ethical decision-making in all situations, including socially, academically, and extracurriculars. Next, we have a PSA that gives an example of what our committee is all about.
Should have won the Student Academy Award.
So that really is just a nice overview of what our committee is all about. We really want to promote positive school culture, positive decision making, and really help students feel confident that in doing the right thing they'll be supported. The PSA is one of our great accomplishments. Some other accomplishments include we have a revised honor code. This committee started about 4 years ago, and 2 years ago we transitioned from the Academic Integrity Committee to the Acting with Integrity Committee to really encompass more of the school culture than just academics. So the students will talk about that. They'll talk about our presentations in the 8th, 9th, and 10th grades. The students do a great job going in, presenting, spreading a positive message. We have a poster contest in the 9th grade classes where you'll see around the building. You'll notice them now when you leave. Every year the students create a new poster that we hang up that again promotes positive decision making. And we created a survey to monitor our growth from the fall to the spring to see if our efforts have worked that year. So we're in the process of still having the spring version of it filled out by students, but we'll show you the fall. So to start, we'll go from there to talk about our honor code.
So like Ms. Sautner said before, 2 years ago our committee changed from the academic integrity to the acting with integrity, and that's really just to focus on, like, our committee focuses on all aspects of integrity, not just like when you're in class taking a test or homework. And we handed out our revised honor codes in the history classes for the students to take the pledge and sign it, and they keep it in their history binder, so it's just a constant reminder, like, when you open your binder, what you should be focusing on and like the morals that we have in school and class.
In the beginning of this year, we went to the middle school to present to the 8th graders, and this is really just to ensure that their first experience with the high schoolers coming in was a positive one and really introduce them to the culture and our moral values here. And it was also to make sure that we instilled good habits on them, because if they're coming into the high school with them, it's easier because they'll have learned it earlier. So we gave scenarios such as, you are walking to town with your friends and forget to get a pass. You should either borrow a friend's pass if caught or turn around and go back to school. And then what the students did was they stood on either side of the classroom, and we would ask some of them why they made that decision so they could rationalize the decision in their head and practice that.
So we also went into the 9th grade mentor classes, and we did a similar thing, but we started off with a video where a boss was interviewing like future employees, and this man came in and he asked him to file out like a report, and he asked him to do it, but he wasn't acting with integrity. So the man went home and he talked to his wife, who they really needed the money, but he came back and he said, I can't do this, I can't break the rules, and it actually ended up being like a trick, and he got the job and he actually passed the test. So he did act with integrity, told the truth, and ended up getting the job in return. So after we watched the video to kind of give them an introduction to how to act with integrity, we played games with them. Not like games, but we gave them scenarios, and each little group had a scenario, and they would present it in front of the class if they wanted to. And we would ask them how they acted with integrity, how they think that things could be changed, if things should be changed, and other things as well. So we taught them kind of how to act with integrity, not only in school, but also like in this example with sports and other various activities.
Now, Emily, did you come up with this scenario?
No, I didn't.
How do you come up with the scenarios?
Usually, we have like a good amount of meetings. So as some clubs meet kind of once a month or once every few months, we try to meet once or twice a month to try to get input from everyone, and we email each other. And if we can't make it to the meetings, like I can text Leah and she can let me know what happened. I can email Ms. Sautner, giving her my input on what we talked about that day. So the scenarios come from all of us, and they also come from just online sources and different things like that.
So this was actually a skit that we had 9th grade students act out, and then they could debrief together to decide really what was the best decision here, because it's a hard choice. They're committed to their team, but they understand they need to be in class for a certain amount of time to participate, and what should the coach do? So that's just one of the various scenarios.
So these were some of the questions that we would ask them. What would an ethical coach do? What's an easy thing for the coach to do opposed to the right thing to do? So sometimes it's hard to make the right decision, but you have to in certain situations, which might not make you either the most popular, or people might not like you at the time because you didn't make the decision that would make everyone the happiest, but you know that it's the right decision. So what are the negative implications? What's the right thing to do, and how could you handle the situation if you were the coach? So we put them in different positions, as like the student, as the coach, as the player, to see what they would do in that situation. So in the 9th grade classes, we also do a poster contest. So each class breaks up into small groups and gets to make their own poster, and they hang it up around the classrooms, and they get to walk around and pick one to represent their classes.
And the teachers, whichever poster wins the contest, it's hung like all around the school, and the teachers have the option to get it printed and laminated in their classroom, just so that when the students walk in, they see it again and like as a reminder of what they should be doing. And yeah.
So these are two examples. This is one example of a poster that someone made, so they can either draw it or do it online. And I think it's really cool that if you win, you get to see what you made and how you interpret integrity all around the school. Like it could be printed anywhere, hung up in the hallways, in the classrooms, and it's just a constant reminder to always act with integrity no matter where you are.
So last week we presented to the 10th grade health classes. As you guys can see, we've actually been building integrity into our community from like the ground up. 8th grade, 9th grade, while they haven't been fully, well, they're not even in the high school or just getting acclimated to it. We also decided that it was important to build the integrity within our community and start with kids that are here and have to deal with it every day. So we created this game called Waxman's Believe It or Not, honestly, just to show the 10th grade students some real examples of integrity that actually might be so shocking they can't believe it's true. So this is an example of a scenario we used, and the goal of this activity was just to essentially shock the students so much that they learned that these things actually do occur, and the consequences, if you don't act with integrity, can be terrible. So this one is talking about a student who took SAT and ACT tests for other people. He took over 15 of them. And we asked the students, how wrong is this? We set up an imaginary line across the room with, if this was a major violation on one side and a minor on the other side. Rather than just picking one side of the room, we had the students and gave them the option to stand anywhere along the line, because something can be in between a major and minor violation. Then we had them discuss. One kid on a major violation side could have explained why he thought it was a major violation, and a kid on the minor side could have shared his opinion. After this, we also asked them if they thought it was real or not. Actually, most of the time, kids were wrong because they were so shocked and appalled by the situations and things kids did. One of our scenarios was about 2 kids who went into a bee farm, knocked out all the bees. Like, no one believes that, but it's a terrible thing to do. It killed someone's business and life. That's the way it works. If you don't act with integrity, they got in a lot of trouble. They were charged with a lot of issues, and this is the sad truth that the kids can't believe it, so they need to learn to act with integrity. So this was just the most recent of our accomplishments, and I think we're going to continue to push to recycle these activities throughout the other grades and just push forward.
So this is an example of the survey we gave in the fall to the history classes to get a baseline with really where we stood with integrity within the building currently. And we will then offer this again next month to the students to see if our efforts have improved, if it has helped school culture. Not that we need to change any school culture, but just want to see if what we're doing is having a positive impact so that we know going forward for next year if we should change some of the activities we do, or if we should change some of the venues that we present in, or if we should stick with what's working now. So that's essentially what we're all about. We're really proud of the hard work we've been doing. The students, when I say we, it's mostly them. They're doing a great job, and they're really, their efforts are noted, so thank you.
So have you, just a quick question, have you, in discussions with your peers, noticed a change in the way that people perceive different scenarios that come up? In terms of, can I just see your homework? What was on the reading last night? Have you seen or noticed any change in the way that people in the building speak about these decisions that come up?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it might actually be unspoken, because the many little things that we do actually do have an impact where it might not, someone might actually not realize it. But like, as a committee, I think we all have the ability to recognize it because we talk about it so frequently as a group. And I have noticed a lot of changes in our school. Students not as straight up, let me get the homework. It's like, no one's gonna say that once they see, when they walk into a class, like, with a poster on the board saying act with integrity, they're not gonna be like, oh, let me copy your homework really quickly. So those little things all do add up, and I think we've actually been pushing and doing a good job. We're proud of our work.
Well, we're very proud of you, and it takes a lot to get up here in front of a room of adults, and we're very thankful that you came and joined us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's really go back to class.
All right, excellent.
Or you could always stay and hear about the budget. Okay, so Robin Glad is here, and she is our board president. I don't know how many times she has heard me do the budget presentation, and every time she says, I'm coming to be supportive, and I just want to thank you, because really, I could probably sit down and do at this point. But anyway, you know, when I look at these kids and I look at them acting with integrity, and I say, so many hours of a superintendent's life consist of doing things like a budget or something else. And you look at the kids and you say, this is the reason why. Chris Walsh and I were talking recently about, you know, when things in our positions get tough, we always look at things like those students, right? This is the reason to do all of this kind of work. So I'm happy that you're staying today for the budget presentation. We've worked long and hard at it. And right now, you'll see where we are in the budget process. As of Tuesday, April 24th, the budget, we're at that stage of the budget process. So we've been through all of these different budget hearings where people can weigh in and give us their input. And the board has been very actively involved in creating this budget with me, which I'm very proud of. For a long time, that kind of thing would happen mostly in the business office. But as a brand new superintendent, I had to have my fingers in every part of the budget, and I had the board with me doing the same thing. So it was really such a great and collaborative effort. I feel very good about this budget, and I feel very good about the financial standing of Byram Hills. So when I first came in as a superintendent, we had an outside auditor, not the same auditor we've used for years and years, come in and give us an assessment. And what they told us is what I thought was happening, which was we are in very good financial planning and in good condition. So the next things we have, the board will adopt the budget Tuesday is our hope, and then after that we will have the last budget hearing, and then May 15th, the budget vote will happen at Crittenden. While I can't ask you how to vote, I do implore you to vote. We had last year 900 some odd voters when we could have had close to 10,000 people voting. So, you know, that's a dangerous predicament for schools, and you want to make sure that people's voices are heard either way. So when we're adopting the Board of Education's budget, we are looking at the following goals. We want to know the board goals are incorporated in their enrollment projections. Over the past couple of years, we've seen a decline in enrollment by a couple hundred students since about 2013, about 200 students. Now, those enrollment numbers aren't so crazy right now, like last year to this year, it's been a decline of 22 students K-12. This year to next year, we're projecting a decline of 33 students, so it really is leveling off. But you have to look at, when you're looking at budgets, you have to look at that enrollment decline over time. Last year, we had probably one of the lowest budget-to-budget increases at 0.8%. And the reason was that we had 5 retirees whose positions we didn't fill and 1 administrative position whose position we didn't fill. So that 0.8% budget was pretty remarkable from last year to this year. And I want to show you what our budget is from this year, from last year to this year. So we are looking at a proposed 18-19 school budget of an increase of 1.9%. Now, when I look at that 1.9%, I have to tell you a little bit more than 1% of that 1.9% came with unexpected expenses for us. The teacher's retirement system increased by 13%, Social Security increased by over 5%, and health insurance costs increased. And if I take those 3, they account for almost 1% of that 1.9%. So I am so proud. I never thought I would geek out over a budget, but I am so proud that our budget-to-budget increase, if you take out the costs that we couldn't control, rivals last year, when we really were looking at a 0.8% budget-to-budget increase. So where are we now? This is another exciting slide. You know, bear with me. I've been doing this a while. But the tax levy limit, this is the limit we are allowed to tax up to as a school district. We are allowed to tax up to $82,169,300. That's a 4.6% increase from last year. We are not asking the public for all of those funds. Our proposed tax levy is only at 3.4%. So our tax levy is close to $1 million less than the levy permitted. What that means is the school district is going out to the public and saying, we are leaving close to $1 million on the table. We are not asking you to pay that additional money. Now, a lot of superintendents would never do that. They always say that you should be going all the way up to your tax cap levy. But when we look at enrollment decline and we look at the programs we have and that we're continuing to build, and when we look at the monies that we've set aside for things that are important to this community, like security, those things being covered, we feel that we could do as lean as possible of a budget-to-budget increase. I looked at the cost of that $1 million and what it would do to your taxes. And we have the monies set aside for big projects that we want to do, like a new turf field and track. We do not need to be asking the public for money for that now. So I feel really confident in this budget. I feel like I looked at it as if I lived in this town and I were writing that check for taxes. I mean it. So this is what I was talking about the enrollment decline. So if you look at the 13-14 years, and oops, sorry, I keep forgetting, 13-14 years until now, you'll see that decline, but you'll also see that it's starting to level off. And while our demographer report has been pretty good for us, note 2022 to 23, like those little kindergarten kids aren't even born yet. So this is a little hard to project what's going to happen. And I have to say, so many exciting things are happening in Byram Hills that this enrollment decline I don't anticipate continuing. I mean, I really don't. With some of the programs that we're putting into the elementary schools and the leadership that we have in place there, I would rival to say this is one of the best school districts in the country. And I think people are going to be sworn in. We have to be careful. And those are just by building, if you want to look at where your kids are. This is how our budget is comprised. So we go by component. So we have program costs, which are close to 70%, which is very typical for schools. Capital at 18.5% and administrative at 11.7%. Now, when we say administrative, please do not be, I always feel like I have to defend this. This is not my salary. This is not the salary of all administrators. Our administrative budget even includes everybody who works in the district office, in the payroll and our treasurer and everybody else involved. Legal fees are in there. Some of the BOCES fees are in there, so there's a lot in that $10 million. And then, broken down by component, these are the program costs, which really I'm not going to bore you to take you through these slides, but we've had an increase in teaching in regular school, but you'll see that a lot of these increases, 2.7% for your overall program costs is not exorbitant. We had a decrease in the capital and a slight increase in the administrative. And those are actually online. If you want to go and explore what's in each of those categories, I could take you through it if you really are interested. I don't want to make everybody else do it. This is, sorry the slides are all wonky, but this is another slide I'm really proud of. This is our bond refunding debt service savings. Well, it's like, what does that mean? So you have mortgages. Consider this like a mortgage. A number of years ago, we put on a huge addition at the high school and an addition at the middle school, and at the time, we put out a bond. So that's kind of like our mortgage, and we are repaying that over time. But in about 2012-13 school year, we, for lack of a better word, refinanced that bond. They call it refunding a bond, but for a layperson, consider it like refinancing. And over that amount of time, we've been able to save over $2 million in our interest on those bonds. Those bonds are anticipated in the next 6 years to be paid off. So what we're not looking for right now is to increase our bond debt. What we're looking to do is pay it off. Now, at some point, it might behoove us to have debt, just like it behooves you to have a mortgage and be able to claim your interest payments. But for right now, we're in a really good place and are scheduled to pay off all of those bonds and continue to save money off of the original bonds that we took out. So really proud of that. And then you'll see here the trend in the bonds, and we expect to have that pretty much finished right around the 2023 mark. So, what are our revenues? Believe it or not, a school has revenue. We're taking in money from different places. So we have the real property taxes, which you're accustomed to and you know. And remember the percent variance is 3.4 and not as high as the 4.6 that we could have done. We have pilots. We have a couple of major companies in town that pay us a pilot. It's payment in lieu of taxes. So they agree to a certain amount to pay us over a certain number of years. Well, the corporate model that used to be so popular in the 80s and the 90s and these big business parks, it is not as popular anymore. We've had some adjustments in these companies in their assessed values. So what has happened is two things. One major company was assessed lower for their pilot than they had been before, so we're not anticipating receiving as much money from them. And another one of the major companies decided they didn't want to do a pilot. This is negotiated with the town, not me. They didn't want to do a pilot and they wanted to go back on the tax rules. That meant that our pilots, or the revenue we're taking in, decreased by 31.2%. So consider the fact that we're leaving $1 million on the table and we're losing money in our pilots. I think that this is a very cost-effective and lean budget for us. When I say lean, your children are not going to be denied any opportunities. It just means that we have been able to put the money in the right places over time, and we can take a breath. If you go back a sec, Chris, sorry. Other revenue, believe it or not, we get some sales tax. We also have some tuition students, and we do get some money from BOCES. We do get some state aid. That's the variance, 11.9%. We get about $4 million in state aid. We are considered a very wealthy district. There are districts that are getting $70 million in state aid. We're not getting that much. But $4 million is good. And our fund balance appropriation, that's the money that we carry over from year to year. So we're carrying that same amount of money over, and that's legal. So we're only allowed to carry a certain percentage over from year to year. I think it's less than 4%. And we're only allowed to carry certain monies in reserve funds, of which we have 5. So that's the only monies that, but with those monies, we have been very careful in putting money into capital reserves so that I don't have to go out like 9 districts in Westchester County and ask for a bond this year. The bonds that other districts have been asking for have ranged from $8 to $80 million. That's a huge debt to be carrying at this point. We're still paying off a $40 million debt, so if you can imagine. And this is the moment you've all been waiting for, right? So this is, well, how does this affect where I live? Am I going to see an increase or am I going to see a decrease? And you have North Castle at 1.67, and you'll see that this is, there's no way to predict what these are. We do receive our tax percentages and rates from the town, and then that is how these projected tax rates are derived. So this isn't something that Byram Hill sits down and says, I think we'd like North Castle to pay this and Bedford to pay that. I am, in looking at this though, you will see, I mean, look how crazy it is in Bedford. In 14-15, they had minus 6.79%. In the following year, it was followed up with a 12% increase, and then a decrease, and then an increase, and then a decrease again. So, you know, these really vary from year to year, and it's based upon assessables in the town and some other factors. This isn't controlled by the schools. But how is it controlled by the schools? If I threw that extra $1 million in there, those numbers at the end would be very different. So that's where having a school district that's going to be cost effective and cost responsive is important to you as a taxpayer. It's always good to have somebody who pays taxes doing this kind of work. Because I'm always like, what would it mean if I lived there? So the true value tax rate, this is something that should excite you. So when you compare the taxes in various districts, they compare it through something called the true value tax rate. And that's that total tax levy, remember that amount that I was allowed to bill up to, divided by the full value of your property. So you do not want your true value tax rate to be high. If your true value tax rate is very high, that means that you are getting less value for your taxes. So take a look at where Byram Hills is in the next slide. I'm so happy to say that this is where we are, and this is where we have been remaining. And if you look, many of our counterparts are far to the left of us. I mean, you have anywhere from, you know, the Katona and Edgemonts and the Chappaqua. You have Chappaqua, you know, you have even somebody like Brewster or Somers, like a lot of these are much higher than us. This is always where we want to be. We always want to say that you are getting the most value for your tax base. So the administrative budget continues the vision. What do we care about? I put that first bullet up there as a nod to my predecessor, Bill Donahue. He and I would talk about that line ad nauseum. What does this mean? Every student K-11 will have the opportunities afforded our graduating seniors. And we always said that we put it there because it's not true. We want every K-11 student to have more opportunities than the graduating seniors. So we, you know, in the true typical Byram Hills fashion, we need over 100%, right? So this is our 100% that these kids are afforded the same thing as graduating seniors, and we're always striving for more than that. So what does that mean? Well, in 2001, and I had been here already for a decade at that point, we had 20% of our students admitted into Tier 1 colleges. In last year, at the end of the year, we had 60% of students admitted, or accepted, I'm sorry, at Tier 1 colleges. 68% accepted at Tier 1 and 2 colleges. Those are the top 11% of colleges in the country. I am not a believer that college is for everyone. And I don't believe that getting into a Tier 1 school makes you any better than getting into a different school. But I'm saying that because colleges have confidence in our programs, and that is what's important for every kid at every level when they're here. And what does the proposed budget include? All the services, all the federally mandated programs, all the athletic programs remain. And they're always looking for new athletic programs to add for kids. All extracurricular programs remain, and transportation services. And also, we've had many discussions about security. We have put money in the budget so that we can do a lot of the major security enhancements that we wanted to do. I do feel that we are in a good place with security, but we're only in a good place because we are always reflecting, refining, revising. And you have to do that just like you have to do that with your budget. This budget is something that you can't sit on the table until next year. Like, I'm looking at the budget with our assistant superintendent for finance right now, and we're looking at a 5-year plan. We should not just be looking at right now, and we should treat safety and everything else the same way. All right, so Proposition 1, this is what you'll see when you go to the budget vote, is our school budget vote that I told you about. Proposition 2 is approval for expenditure from the capital reserve. I don't know if you remember, but last year the public approved a capital reserve fund. A capital reserve fund, remember I said we can only have about 5 or 6 reserve funds. That is a fund that we can put money into that's unexpended from year to year, and we can save it for capital improvement projects. We have to ask the public to spend out of that fund. So we already have the money, we are not asking for a bond of any kind, but we have to ask you to spend, which is great, because it means that Jen Lamia can't come and put a jacuzzi or an outdoor swimming pool or like an ice rink if I just feel like it, right? It means that when we're doing these major renovations, we have to look to the public and say, are you okay with us spending this money out of our budget? So the approval for the expenditure for the capital reserve, when you go to vote, there's going to be a paragraph description. And it's going to say that we have exceeded our life expectancy on that track and that turf, and that we need to replace it, and what the cost is to replace it, which is $1.6 million. We have that money aside. You say, okay, I can't seem to save $1.6 million in my house. Jen, how are you doing this in a school district? So we have, sometimes things happen, like our fuel costs are, only 3/4 of what they were expected to be. So we could take that extra money and put it into a capital reserve. So we've been able to do that. We had another reserve fund that had a significant amount of money in it. We were able to take some of those monies out and transfer them over with the board approval. So we have money in there, and we can build that savings account up to $10 million over the next 10 years to cover the costs. There's so many costs that are already in the school budget. I'll describe one to you. We've had numerous meetings about a cogenerator and putting a cogenerator at the high school, allowing us to regenerate our own power. And in doing so, it would enable us to air condition the rest of this building. That's in our budget right now. So we're already putting a lot of these capital improvements into the budget. I like to keep the money in the capital reserve for things like a major field, or what if we need a whole new boiler system somewhere, or a roof, or we decide to make some enhancements to our facilities over time that we need. And I have to say, it's not enhancements, it's usually something that is really necessary that's coming out of that capital reserve fund, just like the track. And then you will have the opportunity to vote on 2 board trustees. There are 2 positions open, and fortunately our 2 board members are going for those same positions again. I'm really excited. Consistency in the board, and especially a board that has been so supportive in the school district. I'm often amazed, and sorry to make you uncomfortable, but I'm often amazed by the amount of time that board members are expending for the sake of every kid in this district. and how much I appreciate it. And especially when I look at counterparts in other districts who don't have boards of education like we do. We have a couple of incredibly savvy finance people on our Board of Education who have been in the droves with me through this budget process, who know so much and are devoting so much of their time. I can't tell you how many times I text Robin. I mean, she's on the phone in 10 minutes for any kind of situation. This school could not be in better shape with the board that we have and the administration we have. So that's what makes me feel really confident in this budget and in this community, and that we're really responsive to this community. But I have been given this position, which I don't take lightly, and I know that I'm compensated for this position, and our board members are not compensated in any way, shape, or form. And you know, we have a lot of good community members doing that, people who are coming to principals' coffees. I mean, I can't believe that people are coming to hear me talk about the budget. It's an incredibly good place to be and a lot of good people, so thank you for that. And so we hope to see you. We have the 15th, it's probably not on there, the 15th to come out and vote at Crittenden. It's going to be from 6:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. And anybody else that you can get to vote as well.
Your 18-year-old children.
Yes, you're 18. I love when they come in.
They don't have to be registered, just have them bring their ID and they can come and vote. Yeah, it could be their first vote.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, and one thing I want to leave you with is a parting Byram Hills gift. We've done two things this year. One is this special recognition document, which you may have seen in years before, but this has been revised to include, it's going to tell you why Byram Hills is such a special place. Also this year, I put together a link for realtors because I thought it was really important for the school to be the first voice out to anybody who wants to come to the community to talk about why we are committed to Byram Hills. So on the realtors link, it has the video that I put out at the beginning of the school year highlighting what's happening in each of the 4 buildings, a leadership video, which is just our kids in these videos from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, talking about formal and informal leadership opportunities. This document's on there, and our school profile. And I have to end by saying, you know, what we want is for every kid to walk out of Byram Hills and to say, I've had every opportunity I could have possibly asked for. And that we make happy children who go off and become happy adults. So thank you so much, and I will pass these out.
Just in terms of staffing, many of you may or may not have heard, but our assistant principal has been stolen by our superintendent. Gina Cunningham is now
At one
moving.
point, you were stolen out of the classroom.
That's right, that's
With things hung from
right.
these
We'll say
seals.
borrowing or whatever. So Gina,
It was
who's
with permission, by the way.
who has done a tremendous job for us here and really brought a great energy and a great work ethic and a great ability to really interact with kids, is now going up to be the assistant superintendent for HR. She's replacing Peggy McInerney, who's going down to Wampus. So Gina is going to do a terrific job there, and she's going to do great work for the entire district. So we're very happy for her, but that leaves us with needing to replace her. So we have already begun the process. We've received 165 applications for the position. We've screened 13 so far, and we believe that 6 are going to go on to committee. And so those committee interviews will be coming up, and we'll be putting out to the PTSA for any parent looking to sit on that committee. So you should know if you have an interest in that, that'll be coming up. We have a physics position that is opening. Mr. Fuller will not be coming back next year, and we will be looking to replace him. We have 2 special education teachers, Flaubert, who's retiring, and then we're also adding an additional one because of the co-teach model that we've been using is going to require us to have another teacher in there. We're also making a position for the teacher coordinator of the special education department here at the high school, and that will be a teacher leader who will do 40% of their job with the coordination at the building level of the special education department. What's not showing up on there, I don't know why, this is a little funky, is like I said, we have 1 guidance counselor already who's been approved by the board, and we're in the process of getting that second one. We're very close, I would say, within the next week we will be able to to announce that.
And
send
you're
it
close
out to
with
the board.
physics also.
We're very close with the physics and assistant principal, we have a good group of candidates there, so. Any questions on that?
I have to say that fine.
The first one, she is currently the chair of guidance at Bethel High School. And she has years of experience, will be wonderful for us. Now, the other thing that we're trying to do is we're basically down to 2 or so candidates for the other position. And we know that they have certain strengths coming in, and we want to look at the strengths of the people currently in the department, and we want to make sure that we're doing right by the college recommendation letter piece, and we're doing right by the transition piece. So we want to make sure that we're matching people's skills with those jobs. And we'll be able to do that better once we have that second person on board. So exciting times, and it's crazy that we're almost into May, but it goes fast. So thank you very much for coming. I'll stick around if anybody has any questions that they didn't want to send out to the public. So thank you. Thanks to Bobcat TV.